Wednesday, October 12th, 2022.
1025 The Bone. Real Raw Radio. WHPT, Sarasota, Tampa, St. Pete. And 1073 WXGL HD2 St. Pete. Live from the WeatherTight Windows studio. Listener discretion is advised. 102.5 The Bone.
I'm about to whip somebody's...
All right, here we go.
It's the Mike Callta Show.
Now, you ready for this? This is happening!
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hey, wake up, stupid!
You know what I'm saying? I think you do.
612.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
All systems are go.
Make some noise! 3, 2, 1.
It's the Mike Callta Show.
Mike Callta Show.
Mike. Mike. Mike.
So many Mike. So many Mike.
It is the Mike Callta Show. It's 1025 The Bone. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, October 12th, 2022, and we are coming to you live this morning. How is everybody? Nice to see your faces. Yeah. One day I went to let a guest in when I worked at FLZ at night, and I had time of just roaming around and in the sales area, and there was a picture on the wall of Hitmakers magazine where I was on the cover. And it was blown up and it was framed. It was really nice. And I picked it up off the wall because I wanted to see what the space would look like if I stole it, if people would realize I took it. And when I took it off the wall, I went to put it back and I realized there was a key taped to it. So I took the key off it, and it was right outside the general manager's office. So I put the key in his door and I opened it and I went, ooh, this is his I forgot my keys key.
Yeah.
But then I went, wait a second. He's the GM. So I started walking around and just cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Oh, skeleton
had
key.
a key that opened up everything. That's how we used to break into MJ's office all the time.
Yes.
And I used to sit there and try to get MJ's bird to say bad things about MJ. Because they say if you just repeat it enough times, the bird will start repeating it. So I would just sit in there and talk to the bird for an hour at a time. Never said it. Loved MJ, I guess.
Maybe, you don't know.
But it was interesting because I didn't steal anything, but I was able to get my eyes on stuff that I wasn't supposed to see.
Hell yeah.
I will tell you this. I was at the country station. I was at Outlaw, and I was making. So I'll bring it back in. I was on 1010 exclusively. 1010, you can't get out of the parking lot. So at 1010, I was making $50,000 a year salary, but then I had also the wrestling show and some endorsements and appearances. So I was probably making close to $100,000. And this is 30 years ago, 25 years ago, And then they moved me to the country station, and I was still under contract, so there was no talk of salary or anything. It was just like, hey, tomorrow you're on an FM. And I'm like, okay, I was just happy to be doing that. And then my contract was up 60 days later, and I was on the air, and I'm like, nobody's even talking to me about this. It's ridiculous. I was getting so mad. And then finally the GM walked in there, and he was like, hey, I was in the St. Pete side, and now I'm doing both. I never come here, so I have no idea whose contracts are up or not up. I haven't been here long enough to
Look into it.
Well, he goes, I just heard you talking about it, and he goes, so let's talk about it. What do we need here? And I go, well, making $50,000 and this, that, and the other thing. And then I go, but so I can now. I'm on an FMC. And he goes, okay, so how's this? And he just doubled it. I went, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That was very good because you got to understand. At that point, if you're making $100,000 base, you're probably making 150, and it just grows and grows from there.
But also, there are so many people that do not ask for more money. Don't ever really.
Right.
Or, obviously you can put it out there because we're on the radio and we can talk about it, and then it comes up, and the GM comes in and says, hey, I heard you talking about it. There's so many people that are just mad and did you ever ask for any more money?
No, yeah.
You gotta ask
because you're not
may get
on the
shut
top
down.
of their mind,
right?
Yeah.
You may get shut down or whatever, but at least you gotta ask.
Then I left Outlaw after a couple of years. It was weird because they flipped formats of the station, but I was still under contract. So now they were just paying me to sit home, which I hated, and we had to threaten to sue them to let me out of it. And then they were cool though. They were like, no, enough time's gone by. Let's just do it. It was like a non-compete. And I sat out. Then I went to 98 Rock, and I made a pretty good salary there. That was a good Ross Reback deal. And then I remember Ross going, "You're second highest paid person in that building behind the Godfather Ron Diaz." And and MJ at the time. And then from there, then I got fired in 3 months. Now I was like, well, now I'm going to miss that set. And then they tried to tell me that it was my fault, so they wanted to keep. They didn't want to pay me. Yeah, then I had to go to court again. God, court stinks. Then this company hired me, and they had me by the nuts because they knew that I got fired from that last job, and my wife was pregnant, so they got me pretty cheap here.
Is that all in the course of like a year or a couple of years that all this happened?
So I got out of Outlaw in the summer, like maybe August, September, October, November. Yeah, out in August, and then sat home till December. Then in January started at 98 Rock. Then in March got fired from 98 Rock. How crazy is that?
Roller coaster.
Then or maybe it was April. It was right after St. Patrick. No, it was right before St. Patrick's Day because we had a big St. Patrick's Day party planned. Then a guy canceled. So January, February, March, I got fired the week before St. Patrick's Day. Right? Then April, May, sitting home with a baby on the way, no job, and now feel like I'm blackballed because I got fired. And everybody's like FCC, even though I never got in trouble with the FCC. But that was such a big deal because Bubba got that big fine. Everybody was scared, the Janet Jackson thing. So I was like, nobody's going to touch me. And then somebody's like, what about Cox? I go, Cox is afraid of their own shadow. They're never going to hire me. And then I talked to Keith one day, and he was like, all right, let's go meet up. And we went and met up. And then they talked to my agent, who they hated because he ruined the Ron and Ron deal for them.
And nobody told you that the program director only had one eye?
Nobody told me David Harb. David Harb was one of the people that really was instrumental in me getting this job. And him and John Larson were friends, and he told John Larson, you should talk to him, and he was like, I don't know, I heard he's unmanageable, he has a big ego and all that stuff. And then I met, but those are things you hear about people before they get here.
The truth.
And I don't know why he said that, just because he's not here anymore. So I met with him, and we met at Cafe Chibo. And the first time he got excited and he opened his eye and there was no eye there. The minute I left, I called David Harb and he goes, how'd it go? I go, why? Well, you just wouldn't tell me. You wouldn't just give me a heads up. Just say, hey, and by the way.
Yeah.
You know, guy's got one eye.
Don't stare.
Don't stare at him.
Ask him about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. If I knew about it, I may have asked him. I would have been like, hey, what happened there?
Do we know how or why?
The eye?
Yeah.
I think it's there. I think it didn't grow. Or
I think it's from birth. Whatever.
Right.
Because we got him so mad one time that we saw the little baby eye inside of there because he was yelling at us.
Oh, wow.
About something, yeah.
I could never. It's so funny. From the Larson that I know, I could never imagine him yelling.
Right.
He was always
It was so nice.
I say yell, but he was, He was mad about something.
Yeah,
you want to hear something funny?
Do that.
I heard him pissed off a couple times.
Well, we were in the old studio down by 97X. Budweiser, Crazy Eye Tommy came in, and every time Crazy Eye Tommy came in, he came heavy-handed, man. He brought a cooler and girls and beer and all this stuff. So after the show, I had a client meeting. I had to leave right after the show. And Moose straightened everything up, and I think John Moore went and cried that there was stuff in the studio, whatever. And John Larson called me. He goes, hey. And I go, hey. He goes, there's no food allowed in the studio. And I go, I don't know. Okay, we didn't eat in the studio. And he goes, well, there's beer in there. And I go, well, that's the Budweiser guys came in. I don't care. And he cut me off, and I was like, what do you want me to do? Tell the Budweiser guy they can't? Yeah. Tell him to leave in the hallway. And let me tell you, if I come in there and I find their food or beer in the shit, and he's yelling at me, and I just hung up the phone while he was yelling at me, and I call Keith, and I go, hey, man. He goes, hey, buddy. I go, hey, I don't want to be a dick, but please talk to John Larson. He goes, why? I go, because if he ever talks to me like that again, I'm going to come to the station and knock the other eye out of his head. And Keith goes, okay, because I was calm, and he goes, are you close by? I go, I am. And he goes, would you come here and we're going to be? I go, sure. So we went there, we had a talk. I go, I don't talk to anybody like that. Don't yell at me like I'm a 14-year-old. I go, I was trying to explain to him why there was a cooler in the studio. A client brought it in. You don't want it, then deal with the salesperson. Tell him not to bring anything in there. I don't put me in the middle. And Keith's like, no, you're right. And then John, I got to tell you, from that point on, John Larson never yelled at me, and he and I had a good relationship. Not a bad guy at all.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it like I'm beating up on him. He was a very good guy. The problem with him was he was good at his job, but he was also a puppet in the aspect where he wasn't allowed to make any decisions or do anything. Everything came from corporate. And that idiot from corporate who ran the company actually lived here, so he would listen and comment on everything. And he had another puppet that worked here, so that guy would pretty much ruin everything. That's why this company always stunk for all these years. And John Larson would have to listen to him. So we didn't get mad at John. We liked John. He was good.
Yeah, he was always. That's why it's so funny to hear that he would get mad and yell, because he was always so nice.
You know why? Because he was getting it from somebody else, and then he would have to take it out on us. And then also saw that we were kind of growing out of, we win these battles now. So
the time I saw him mad, I was running the board for this show. You guys were, I think, at the fair. And something, I don't know if he wanted you to take a break or something, and he busts in the studio. It's just me. And he's like, you tell them to take an effing break. And you're like yelling. And I go, okay, you got to tell Mike now. And then I'm like, John wants you to go to break. And you went,
sure that worked.
You went, cool. You kept going. But he was like yelling. He's like, you got to tell them right now. You're cool.
You wouldn't know what douchebags they were.
The Tampa Bay Lightning now live right here on 102.5 The Bone. This Friday.